This is hailed as the most powerful cry for freedom in cinematic history. What this shout achieves is not just an excellent, widely praised Oscar-winning film, it also becomes a model for how to modernize historical cold weapon war movies. Furthermore, it inspires countless fans to fall in love with and explore history through cinema. Seeing history through film, today we bring you Mel Gibson's Braveheart. Let's watch the movie first, and then we will recount the real history behind it. The story in the film takes place in the 13th and 14th centuries. Because the King of Scotland dies without an heir, the nobles eye the throne hungrily, leaving Scotland in a fragmented state. At this time, during the peak of England's Plantagenet dynasty, King Edward I, known as Longshanks, forcefully announces his occupation of Scotland. The Scottish nobles go to war with him for the throne. So, Longshanks comes up with a treacherous plot. Under the pretense of peace talks, he gathers a large group of nobles together and hangs them all. From then on, most of the resistance forces in Scotland are swept away, and Longshanks begins his tyrannical rule over Scotland. Where there is oppression, there is bound to be resistance. A grassroots hero emerges out of nowhere, turning Scotland upside down. He is the legendary freedom fighter in Scottish history, William Wallace. When William is a child, his father and brother die in the resistance war against England. The young boy is ruthlessly invaded by the fear of losing his loved ones. He buries his father and brother with the help of the villagers. At this moment, he is helpless and hesitant, and even his future survival becomes a major problem. A little girl from the neighborhood, Murren, cannot bear to see William so sad and helpless, so she picks a thistle flower, symbolizing freedom, tenacity, and protection, and gives it to him. This flower becomes the token of their love many years later. Later, William's uncle takes him away and travels with him to various countries to learn knowledge and martial arts. When he returns from his studies, he has grown tall and strong, with an extraordinary heroic bearing. Meanwhile, in England, to stabilize his rule in Scotland and Wales, Longshanks seeks a marriage alliance with France to ease the conflict between England and France, having his son marry the French Princess Isabel. Princess Isabel is incredibly beautiful and intelligent, but she fails to arouse any interest in Prince Edward because he has no interest in women or the affairs of the kingdom. He even lets his new wife attend military council meetings in his place. Longshanks is very disappointed by this, but can do nothing about it. He focuses most of his energy on Scotland. To conquer Scotland from its roots, Longshanks comes up with an extremely sinister move. He grants English land to Scottish nobles so that they will rely on him for profit. Then, he grants Scottish land to English nobles, allowing more English people to go to Scottish lands and enslave the people there. And to make English nobles more willing to go to the relatively barren Scotland, Longshanks orders the reinstatement of a very old barbaric tradition, Prima Nocta, or the right of the first night, where nobles can legally enjoy local brides. This despicable practice not only solves the nobles' problem, but will also wipe out the Scottish bloodline over time, eventually turning Scotland completely into England. On this day, William, who has just returned to his hometown, luckily attends a villager's wedding and sees Murren, whom he hasn't seen for a long time and who has grown into a graceful young woman. But this wedding, overflowing with celebration and happiness, is shattered by the arrival of an English noble. The noble shouts that he is exercising the Prima Nocta, granted to him by law, and shamelessly takes the bride away in front of the groom, who gnashes his teeth but is powerless. Rage surges in William's heart too, but he doesn't want to cause trouble yet. He finds Murren after the wedding and invites her to ride horses across the open field. Now that William has traveled far and wide, his knowledgeable and witty conversation makes Murren fond of him. When they part at night, William gives Murren a handkerchief, inside of which is that very same thistle flower she gave him as a child. Murren understands everything. William came back for her. Their feelings heat up rapidly. To avoid the tragedy of a noble exercising Prima Nocta, they hold a secret wedding behind everyone's back, including Murren's parents. Under the witness of a priest, Murren gives the handkerchief embroidered with the thistle to William. It is her only dowry. That night, they share intimacy under the moonlight, depriving the noble of that filthy right. They should have lived happily and peacefully like this, but this happiness is fleeting. Their intimacy is soon discovered by English soldiers. Several soldiers secretly surround Murren, preparing to punish her in private. Fortunately, William discovers them in time, rushes up, and knocks down the soldiers with a few blows. William tells Murren to ride a horse and run first. He will meet her in the small woods after shaking off the soldiers. William is agile. He quickly takes out a straggling soldier, puts on the soldier's uniform, and sneaks out of the village. However, he waits in the woods for a long time and never sees Murren. It turns out Murren didn't manage to run out of the village before being caught by the soldiers. The officer is furious, saying that insulting the king's soldiers is equivalent to insulting the king himself, and then cruelly slits Murren's throat in front of everyone. But they aren't done. They intend to use Murren's body to lure William out. William, having not waited for Murren, obviously realizes she is met with an accident. He rushes back to the village, but it is too late. William, filled with grief and rage, feigns surrender, then suddenly strikes the soldier down when he is off guard. He snatches the soldier's longsword and unleashes all the anger he has suppressed over the years. Seeing William fight like a god, the villagers join the battle one after another. Their raw, wild nature is ignited. These ordinary Scottish people who have been enslaved and oppressed for so long now turn into fierce beasts breaking free from their shackles. These soldiers cannot stop them at all. The officer is already scared out of his wits and loses the ability to resist. William raises his sword and strikes, exacting his revenge. The villagers have finally found a leader who can lead them to turn the tide against slavery, and William's name resounds through the sky. When people in the neighboring village hear of William's heroic deed, all the men run over to ask to join them. So, everyone puts on the captured soldier uniforms, infiltrates the noble lord's lair, and subdues the garrison by surprise. The villager whose wife was taken for Prima Nocta can finally take revenge. William tells the people on this day that the sons and daughters of Scotland will not be enslaved by anyone. William's heroic deeds spread rapidly among the Scottish people, and he gains more and more followers. Soon, the news reaches the ears of the King of England, Longshanks. At this time, Longshanks is busy with the war against the French and cannot get away. He hands the task of exterminating William to his son, hoping his son can grow up a bit by dealing with this petty thief, but they all underestimate this petty thief. Prince Edward certainly doesn't have the courage to lead the expedition personally. He merely convenes a military council, delegating the task of exterminating the thief to others. But the result is that the first troop sent falls into William's ambush and is completely wiped out. William's power grows rapidly, which also makes many Scottish nobles restless. One of the most powerful among them is the future famous King of Scotland, Robert the Bruce. Robert is the noble with the most hope of gaining the throne, and he also has a heart that longs to fight for Scotland. But when he tells his father, who is hiding behind the scenes due to illness, about William's uprising and his own thoughts, he is immediately stopped by his scheming father. He tells Robert to use his power in northern Scotland to support William, and then use the family's power in the south to suppress them, to gain England's support. This way, they can maximize their benefits and obtain the English king's support to secure the Scottish throne. Although Robert wants to lead the people to resist the invasion like William, the actual controller of the family is still his father, so he can only execute his father's plan. Meanwhile, the news of William defeating the English army has reached England. Prince Edward doesn't take it to heart at all. He just sends more men to suppress the bandits. Conversely, this news makes Princess Isabel very excited. Her handmaiden meets privately with a minister and gets a lot of news about William. When the handmaiden tells Isabel how William led a people's uprising for his wife and how he fights bravely like a god, Isabel is entranced, her heart filled with longing. This is the man she fantasizes about and desires. As William's forces grow larger, a large number of Irish people who have a grudge against England also come famously to join his team. But William does not get arrogant. Instead, he realizes that the day when England sends a larger scale of elite troops to encircle them is not far off, and they must prepare for war in advance. Sure enough, spies report that England's main force is marching towards Stirling, and there is also a large number of heavy cavalry. Some Scottish nobles have already led their men to meet the enemy. Hearing this, William quickly leads his team to support them. But when William, painted with war paint and surging with fighting spirit, arrives at Stirling, he finds that the troops of several nobles have already been intimidated by the English army's momentum, and the ranks are showing signs of collapsing. William quickly rides to the front of the formation and delivers a passionate speech, instantly uniting people's hearts. William knows the suffering of these ordinary people deeply. Poor people who are oppressed and enslaved always yearn for freedom the most. Only with freedom is there dignity and the courage and motivation to live on. So when William shouts freedom, he gets a massive response. But the passionate shouting does not make the nobles forget the purpose of this trip. They actually came to fight mostly just for show, hoping to negotiate with England to gain more benefits. However, William gives them no chance for peace talks. He insults the English commander heavily, destroys the negotiation, and forces the nobles to stand with him. The two armies officially go to war. After 2 rounds of defensive and offensive archery from the English side, William quickly signals the nobles to pretend to slip away with the cavalry. The English army falls for the trap and immediately sends out heavy cavalry to charge, wanting to crush this mob directly. But just as the cavalry is about to crash into them, William gives the order. The warriors instantly raise the extra long spears they prepared earlier to deal with heavy cavalry. The heavy cavalry is thrown into chaos, horses and men flipping over, and they are hacked to pieces by the Scottish army swarming up. Seeing this, the English side quickly sends infantry to support, and the Scottish side also rushes toward the enemy formation under William's leadership. The charge of thousands of people on both sides creates the momentum of a stampede of 10,000 horses. When the two battle lines collide, limbs are severed, and flesh and blood fly everywhere. Just then, the Scottish nobles who feigned retreat lead their cavalry to flank the English army's rear. Catching the enemy off guard, they slaughter the English archer units, then attack from both front and back, beating the English army into a rout. The Scottish army wins a great victory under William's leadership, which also makes his prestige in Scotland skyrocket. The nobles even appoint him as the High Guardian of Scotland. But the nobles, having just won a preliminary victory, begin to quarrel wildly over the throne and benefits. William feels very disappointed. He intended to unite everyone to march into England, defeat them on their own land, and trade for Scotland's complete independence. But the nobles only think about their own interests. They are ultimately a heap of loose sand and not worth planning with. William leaves the meeting in anger. Robert immediately chases him out, expressing admiration for William's courage, but still advises William to unite the nobles and not make enemies on both sides. William tells Robert that a noble status might earn people's respect, but people will ultimately follow a courageous man. If Robert can lead the people toward freedom, then he and the people will follow him to the death. These words deeply touch Robert's heart. After this, William continues to lead his freedom fighters to conquer cities and seize territory, even capturing York, the most important city in northern England, and beheading Longshanks' nephew. Longshanks is furious that his disappointing son has let the situation get this bad while only caring about fooling around. The enraged Longshanks throws his son's male lover out of the window and starts cleaning up the mess his son left behind. He thinks about it and decides to use a delaying tactic to stabilize William first, and then find a chance to take him out. To make William believe it, the person going to negotiate must show enough sincerity. Longshanks himself dares not go. He is afraid of being cut down by William. His son can't go either. If the enemy sees what a coward the prince is, it will only strengthen their resolve to invade. After much thought, only one person is most suitable. So outside the city of York, William meets Isabel for the first time. On the surface, Isabel is cold as ice, but inside, she can hardly contain her joy. Although meeting for the first time, they can both feel the friendliness from the other. This man who rejected Longshanks' offer of land and wealth makes Isabel's heart flutter. After spending a short time together, Isabel reluctantly parts with the hero in her heart. But what she doesn't expect is that upon returning to England, she discovers that her trip to negotiate was just part of Longshanks' conspiracy. Longshanks never intended to truly make peace with William. Using the opportunity of Isabel's negotiation, he has already had Welsh archers quietly surround William's flank, invited the French army to circle behind him, and brought in new Irish troops arriving from the southwest, ready to catch William off guard. Isabel feels utterly humiliated hearing this. She has actually become a link in Longshanks' conspiracy. She quickly has her handmaiden secretly pass the news to William, hoping he can escape the encirclement. But after receiving the news, not only does William not flee, but he also convenes a meeting of nobles overnight, preparing to unite the nobles' forces and take the initiative to attack. However, when the nobles hear they are facing a coalition of 4 nations, they become timid and dare not fight. Finally, with William's constant encouragement, Robert is moved by him and decides to unite with the nobles to attack. On July 22, 1298, William and Longshanks deploy their armies at Falkirk. From the looks of it, the Scottish side has no advantage because Robert still hasn't arrived with his men by the time the battle starts. But William still firmly believes he will arrive. Longshanks launches the attack first. He lets the Irish wear down the Scots for a wave. But then, an unbelievable scene appears. The aggressive charge of the two sides turns into handshakes and hugs. The Irish have defected on the battlefield. It turns out they were long ago won over by the Irish brothers under William's command. Subsequently, William orders fire arrows to be released. The ground beneath the opposing rear cavalry instantly burns into a blaze. This is a fuel trap William arranged early on. Taking advantage of the chaos in the enemy cavalry, William immediately leads his army in a charge, clashing with the English infantry. Seeing the momentum is good and the Scottish army is fighting bravely, William quickly waves the flag, signaling the noble cavalry to attack the enemy flank as planned. But a scene that chills William's heart appears. The nobles lead the cavalry and retreat. It turns out they have all been bought off by Longshanks with more land. Watching the Scottish cavalry retreat, Longshanks immediately and ruthlessly orders his archers to fire arrows into the battlefield. To destroy William, he even shoots down his own men. The Scottish army, locked in a bloody battle with the enemy, has no time to dodge. Arrows kill in swathes, and William is unfortunately hit. Longshanks then sends out his reserve forces to join the battle, and the tide turns instantly. Seeing the outcome is decided, Longshanks leisurely withdraws. William, enduring his injuries, grabs a horse and chases Longshanks alone, but is knocked down by Longshanks' knight. William uses a chance to fake his death and successfully counterattacks, but the next scene hits him like a bolt of lightning. This knight is Robert the Bruce, whom William deeply believed would come to help. William's mind goes blank. He lies down, physically and mentally exhausted. He never dreamed that he didn't lose to the English, but lost to his sanctimonious compatriot. But fortunately, Robert hasn't completely lost his conscience. He carries William and lets the arriving Irish take him away. When Robert returns to the battlefield, looking at the corpses of Scots everywhere and recalling the despair in William's eyes just now, he can no longer tolerate his own actions. He goes back and angrily scolds his father, who orchestrated all this in the dark, vowing never to stand on the wrong side again. After William recovers, the first thing he does is revenge. These hypocritical nobles betrayed their faith, so he will remove these tumors from the land of Scotland one by one. While the nobles are in a panic, William's prestige among the people grows stronger. He regroups and raises a team to continue resisting the English. At this time, Longshanks comes up with another dirty trick. Since a large military campaign is obviously costly and tiring, he will use other means to get rid of William. Only if William dies will the Scottish problem be solved naturally. According to information from his spies, William seems to be very fond of his daughter-in-law Isabel. So, he sends her to make peace with William again, and then takes the opportunity to have assassins take William out. If the spy's information is inaccurate, then even if Isabel is killed by William, it can provoke France's anger, making the path to suppressing the rebellion even smoother. But this conspiracy happens to be overheard by Isabel's handmaiden. On the day of the peace talk, William, who has already received the news, plays along and directly burns a nest of assassins with fire. William and Isabel also confirm their feelings. On William's side, due to the severe damage in the Battle of Falkirk, it has been difficult to form a massive force like before. In the difficult struggle against England that follows, William also realizes that without the help of the nobles, it is indeed hard to achieve great things. Coincidentally, the nobles find William again, with Robert acting as a guarantor, preparing to reorganize the troops, overthrow Longshanks in one go, and unify Scotland. William still has hope in Robert, because even though Robert betrayed him, he didn't kill him at the critical moment and saved him. So for the future of Scotland, William decides to trust Robert. But this time, Robert is indeed sincerely wanting to join hands with William. However, his father plots again in the dark. He privately reaches an agreement with Longshanks on the condition that if William is caught, Robert can be king. William falls to the nobles' conspiracy once again. Even though Robert completely falls out with his father over this, William is still handed over to England and convicted of high treason. Isabel visits William in his cell one last time before the execution. She knows well what cruel methods the executioner will use to torture William to death. She cannot bear for William to suffer such tribulation, so she asks him to drink a potion that can relieve pain. But after she leaves, William spits out the potion. He cannot let himself go numb on this final journey. At this time, Longshanks is already so ill he has lost the ability to speak or move. Isabel goes to his sickbed and asks him to show mercy to William to win the goodwill of the Scottish people. But how could he possibly let William go? So Isabel leans into his ear and speaks.
Your blood dies with you. A child who is not of your line grows in my belly. Your son will not sit long on the throne, I swear.
Everything Isabel says will come true in the future. William's execution is extremely cruel, the final step being disembowelment. Even the English onlookers go from excitement at the beginning to being unable to watch and chant, "Mercy." But William, who refuses to beg for mercy until the end, clutches the handkerchief embroidered with the thistle tightly in the final moment of his life and uses his last breath to complete the cry before his life fades away. After William dies, his head is hung on London Bridge, and his limbs are sent to the four corners of the British Isles as a warning to others. However, the result is quite the opposite. William's death enrages the Scottish people. Robert leads an army in an uprising that receives a massive response, finally leading the Scottish people to overthrow English rule and becoming a famous king of Scotland. Okay, that ends the story part. Now let's look at how the plot differs from real history. First, let's talk about why the English king took the opportunity to enter Scotland after the Scottish king died. In 1286, Scottish King Alexander III accidentally fell from a cliff and died. After his death, the Scots suddenly realized that there was no legal heir to the throne in Scotland because Alexander III's children had all died before him. The only person with a legal right of inheritance at the moment was the child of Alexander III's daughter and Eric II of Norway, a 6-year-old princess named Margaret. But this little princess died before she was 10. Now the direct bloodline of the Scottish royal family was broken. Apart from the direct bloodline, the closest relation was England, which maintained marriage ties with the Scottish royal family. Alexander III's father-in-law was Henry III, the father of Longshanks Edward I. So because of this family relationship, the Scots asked the English king Longshanks to help the Scottish nobles decide who was more qualified to inherit the throne. But unexpectedly, this became the beginning of a disaster. At that time, the most powerful noble in Scotland was the family of Robert the Bruce from the movie. And when the old King Alexander II was alive, he had designated that if an accident happened to the royal family one day, the right to the throne would belong to his family. But Longshanks would gain nothing from such a natural course of events. So he finally ruled that John Balliol, whose power was far inferior to Robert's family, should inherit the throne. Longshanks originally intended to support a puppet he could manipulate, but Balliol ignored him after becoming king. Longshanks was furious and led an army to arrest Balliol and all the nobles who were on good terms with his family. Now Robert thought it was his turn to succeed the throne, but Longshanks directly announced that he himself was the King of Scotland, replacing basically all Scottish officials with English people. Scotland was essentially a conquered nation. Thus, the unbearable Scots began the road of resisting England. The most powerful team among them was, of course, Robert's. But the most legendary was William Wallace's team. There are very few historical records of William before the uprising. Most are legends. Here we have chosen materials collected and verified by the curator of the Stirling Monument, because after William died, his longsword was treasured in the Stirling Monument and became the treasure of the museum, so the account of William's life there is relatively authoritative. Unlike many legends that say William's family was fallen knights, the reality is likely that they were ordinary tenant farmers. However, his father Malcolm was a relatively important figure in the Scottish peasant uprising army at the time. Later, along with William's brother, he was killed by an English knight named Fenwick at Loudon Hill in Ayrshire. Then William followed his mother to rely on relatives and studied and lived in a church school. As an adult, William grew very tall and strong, an anomaly among the generally malnourished Scots of the same period, so he was very fierce in battle. He quickly gathered a large group of relatives, farmers, bandits, and robbers around him. Then he fought a very beautiful ambush battle at Loudon Hill, killing his enemy, the knight Fenwick, and avenging his father and brother. William's wife, Murren, was killed after his uprising, and it had nothing to do with Prima Nocta. It was a retaliatory action specifically against William by the Sheriff of Lanark, a subordinate appointed by Longshanks. Murren's family was also a minor noble with some power. To avenge Murren, her family also gathered all their active forces to be commanded by William. Then, William led men to raid Lanark at night, washing the sheriff's mansion with blood and avenging his wife. In this battle, over 200 English soldiers were killed, and William became famous in one battle. Subsequently, under the name of the Army of Freedom, he quickly gathered thousands of insurgents. Then, receiving the support of Bishop Wishart, and under the name of the imprisoned King Balliol, he raised the banner of restoration. From then on, he gained the recognition of the people and some noble, and his power finally developed. Then William conquered cities and seized territory, sweeping across northern Scotland. When Longshanks learned of this, he ordered his famous General Warenne to lead a large army to conquer William, leading to the Battle of Stirling, depicted in the movie. The English army was as strong as shown in the movie, with 1,000 heavy cavalry, 5,000 infantry, 300 Welsh longbowmen. They were all veterans of many battles, and the commander was also experienced. Looking at the Scottish side, the main force was actually not the ragtag army of over 10,000 led by William, but Andrew Moray, whose power among Scottish nobles at the time was second only to Robert. Moray's 6,000 infantry and 200 heavy cavalry were also the only remaining regular troops in Scotland besides Robert's family. So Moray was the absolute protagonist of this battle, and William was playing support for him. But facing the English army head-on offered no chance of winning. This battle was won due to terrain and luck. Unlike the movie, this battle was not on a plain. There was a Stirling bridge between the two armies. The Scottish side was on higher ground. The English heavy cavalry had to cross the bridge to spread out and charge the Scottish army. But those who crossed the bridge first got stuck in the soft, muddy riverbank by the bridge. Those behind didn't know the situation in front and kept pushing forward, causing the English troops to get all jammed up there. Finally, the bridge collapsed too. The Scottish army launched a charge while the English army was in. The English army suffered countless casualties. The commander fled, and the Scottish army won a great victory at the Battle of Stirling. But unfortunately, Moray, who should have taken the top credit for this battle, died in combat. So William absorbed Moray's regular army. This part of the army remained his main force until William was defeated in the Battle of Falkirk. Here, we must also vindicate Moray from the movie. In the movie, Moray not only fled from battle and was bought off by Longshanks, but was finally assassinated by William. In reality, he was a very tough and capable leader of the Scottish resistance. Let's talk about the Battle of Falkirk, where William was defeated in the movie. Actually, in this battle, William had the advantage because Longshanks was exhausted from a long march, while William was waiting at his ease. Moreover, he had put a lot of effort into the battlefield beforehand, including digging many mud traps on the expected charge path of the English army. However, Longshank's military talent was truly excellent. He utilized the advantage of the Welsh longbowmen to the extreme in this battle, consistently shooting from a range of 200 meters. The front rows of the Scottish army were shot down row after row. Finally, the Scottish morale was about to scatter. They had no choice but to bite the bullet and launch a charge, but those traps turned into obstacles for their own people. In this battle, William's main force was basically wiped out here. He also narrowly escaped with his life. After this, he never organized such a large-scale army again. Of course, Robert betraying and selling out William in the film were all adapted by the screenwriters. None of that happened in history. The person who really sold out William in history was a partner he trusted very much, a Scottish noble named John Menteith. Looking back now, this person was a double agent, betraying both sides for profit. Finally, William's execution was indeed much crueler than in the movie. Burning, dismemberment, and so on. The film couldn't show it all. The subsequent events are the same as shown in the movie. Finally, let's talk about Princess Isabel in the movie. In reality, she had absolutely no interaction with William, but her story is indeed very fascinating. Isabel later had a nickname called She-Wolf of France. That sounds like someone you don't want to mess with. So how did this nickname come about? Isabel was the daughter of King Philip IV of France. Beautiful, talented, and extremely proud. But she became a victim of political marriage between England and France. Actually, calling her a victim isn't entirely accurate. In the movie and in widely circulated versions, it is said that her husband was homosexual, and Isabel lived like a widow after marrying him. Later, she escaped back to France, raised an army, came back, destroyed her husband, and even killed him with a red-hot iron rod. Everyone can treat these stories as gossip for fun. Historically, after Isabel married over, she was actually quite happy in the early days, and they even had several children. Moreover, Isabel's diplomatic skills were very powerful. She basically made up for Edward II's lack of ability. However, she was indeed very dissatisfied with her husband hanging out with male lovers all the time, but it hadn't reached the point of being irreconcilable. They completely turned against each other during the Anglo-French crisis of 1324. Edward II ordered the arrest of French people in England on a large scale. Isabel suffered along with them. Not only were her French attendants and servants detained, but she was also stopped from seeing her children. The most excessive part was that Isabel's property was seized by her husband's male lover. From this point on, the couple completely turned into enemies. Then Isabel fled back to France and became lovers with Edward II's political enemy. Then, relying on her superb social skills and charm, she quickly organized an army and supporters absolutely loyal to her, fought back to England, and defeated her husband. Then she deposed her husband and let her son Edward III succeed the throne. Afterward, she castrated and hanged her husband's male lover. As for the cause of Edward II's death, there are no detailed historical records. Alright, that's it for this episode. The next one will be even more exciting, so don't miss it.